we could do before and now can do better, or we didn't have a lot of these components?
That's a very good question. Anchorage has a long history of doing GIS. It also has a long history of letting the GIS program fail. So we've had, we were one of the earliest adopters of GIS in the nation. We had a strong GIS program. However, as of 2 years ago, it was in a pretty desperate failure mode. So we have rebuilt the program. We created a new team, a new organizational structure in order to focus on rebuilding the program.
We got in early, and then everyone caught up and went past us, and ours just...
Yes, everyone caught up and went past us, then we failed. The failure was noticed by the public. The infrastructure was failing. The processes were failing. The data was bad. We had wrong data being shared on things like wetlands or roads, causing issues from the Census Bureau to permitting. But that was 2 years ago. And what we've done in the last 2 years is fix it and move forward. So now we are past the national standard at this point.
Oh, nice. So about 10 years ago we started failing, and then we're catching up in the last couple?
So I would say 20 years ago. It's been even worse.
Wow.
So we found a lot of products had not been updated since 1998 to 2004. And that goes from hard copy PDF maps. You'll still encounter maps on the Muni website that say 2004. If you do call us, we're working actively with all departments to make sure that those links get updated with new information. And in order to do that,
Tina, can I just throw something in here in response to Mr. Croft's comment? And the reason I asked for this work session is because GIS is doing such amazing things, and I just didn't think that the Assembly was aware of all of it. And a lot of this info is available to your constituents. Tina is one of the key people that started working with us in about 2000, for our vote by mail process? 13, 14. Yeah. We've been working with her for years. And she's also been working with Mandy on liquor licenses and Amber from her office. This is an integral part of the work that we do and that your constituents need. She's going to show you some of those pages. So that's why she's here. Okay?
Good.
Thank you. So key part of a successful GIS program is having people and processes. So it's different from straight information technology in terms of it's not a software application that you buy. It's how you work with people, how you work with change management, how you look at the information that already exists and don't duplicate it. You're really managing an information factory, and you have to do it from start to finish. So we have a hybrid GIS organizational structure. I'm going to ask Amber Jackson and Mike Knapp to stand up. We are a team of 3. It's us. We do everything. We do the database. We do the computer work. We do the outreach. I'm very lucky that Amber does our social media. She's a public information officer, and Mike comes to us with 18 years of experience in the private sector.
Do you have more green dots than you have staff?
I do. The reason I do is one of the green dots is we have a policy group, a GIS policy group that meets. That's a support, and I honestly was struggling how to show the structure.
Yeah.
Inside that circle is the key team. We work very hard to push management of the data as close to the departments as we can, as close to the people whose data it is. It's not our data, it's the department's data. So we have GIS analysts that are embedded in departments. Their skill set's different. They're not enterprise GIS staff, but they don't need to be. They need to understand watershed analysis or addressing or any of those specific skill data sets. So we are the small central hub, and we work very hard to support the departments to ensure quality information, quick response, and accurate sharing.
Great.
So here comes the fun part. Barbara was speaking about our information that we have out there. In the past 2 years, we have worked on creating authoritative source, regardless of the format. That means everything is updated at the same time. It can be PDF maps available for download, map services that are out there, that's a more technical use, and also just public web pages that show you different information.
And you used a term of art there, the authoritative source
regardless of the format. So what happens is you can download a PDF map.
Right.
It may have used data that's 20 years old. That's not very helpful. That's not authoritative information. That can cause issues if one person is looking at that information to make a decision and another person is looking at more current information. You can just make wrong decisions and will. A simple example, wetlands delineation. If that's been updated and somebody has their property showing no wetland on an old map and there's a new data set out there that shows that there is one, they can't get a permit. So it's very important. So what this means is that those 9,000 maps are updated weekly. We did computer programming to do that.
Could never do it with personnel, but now you have the system that automatically does.
We made the factory, that's right. And the personnel code the information so that the factory keeps putting information out. You can never do this manually. So one of the things I'm going to show you is the print maps. These are all live web pages that I'm going to show you, and we get requests for these types of maps from all over the community. And so when we get requests, what we try to do is put it out so the next person has access without asking us. They can just go to the web page. So if you go to this web page, which we have on our public website, every single one of these with a download link is a map that's current, that can be downloaded for whatever use you might have. We have Boy Scouts download these for their field efforts when they're selling their Boy Scout information. We had the Red Cross call us right after the earthquake saying we need this so we can kind of put a wall map up to find out where we're going. The homeless point in time count will print out a map just to say, okay, you're going here, you're going there. So how this works is you can see that this here is a map of the Anchorage Bowl. Here's the size. This would be the link for that size. I'm going to click on it, and now I have a file I can send to any printer in town that's able to print that size map and get very, very high quality information about Anchorage. And on the bottom, here's the date this was produced. So all of the streets are current as of 1/6/2019. You can see that we have requests for assembly districts. Each assembly district has an individual map that's produced weekly, so that if you get a new road in your assembly district or something else happens, that you have a current map of that. In order to get to those, we have an overview map, or we have what's called a map index. On the map index, I'm going to click on that, and it opens up an overview of your assembly districts. On this, I can click on Assembly District 2. I can show that Gretchen Weymouth and Fred Dyson are the two incumbents. I can go to the Assembly website, but I can also take and print a PDF map of District 2 with the voting districts or voting precincts on it. If you have a type of map that you think that your constituents would like repeatedly, we're happy to do it and put it out there so that people can use it. The reason this is important is prior to this being set up for self-service, municipal employees across all departments with each request would create a map, spend the labor to print it, and then give it to the requester. If you can imagine the labor savings that 9,000 PDFs that are updated continually have generated and the accuracy that's increased, that is why we have set it up this way.
Mr. Constable,
I didn't read, but do you have a map? You said you have a map showing streetlights. Do you have one showing power poles?
So the question was, do we show power poles? So streetlights and power poles and the data are kind of considered one, and then they're components of the electrical infrastructure that we don't put out publicly because it's considered critical infrastructure. We're not allowed to share it. But we do have more detailed information on streetlight infrastructure available internally for use. Yeah.
Okay. And you probably track change over time. So you would have maps done a year ago, reference, and then you could look at it now?
So not yet. So the very, very first thing that some data sets have changed over time, but that is a missing component of many of the data sets that are in GIS. So our first efforts were to stabilize, build the foundation, and get authoritative data out there so that we could we had to free up some labor to do the other pieces, and we couldn't if the requests keep coming in.
Finally, would you be able to go backwards then with the data that you have, or is it just kind of a snapshot moving forward?
It depends on the data set. So the newer data sets have the historic information built in and archived. So we have cemetery burials, that's a newer data set. We have all the changes over time. The parcel fabric, the parcel data set, we just are going live with a new format that allows historic tracking of land changes over time from this point forward.
Okay, I have more questions, but after.
I'd be happy to sit with you. Yes?
Ms. Wimhoff and then Mr. Geis.
Yeah, just a quick comment. You mentioned about the electrical maps, of course, national security, safety, et cetera, like
Yeah.
that. And I understand the water programs are that way as well. But I understand also, I heard that someone could, for $25, purchase those maps in person rather than have them available online. Is that accurate? And how do members of the community who are concerned about where water is planned in the future or electrical poles planned in the future, how do they go there?
Planned in the future or current status?
Current status and future plans.
Okay, I'm going to divide that question.
Okay.
So for our partners, our utility partner, AWW, I ran the asset management program and GIS program at AWW for a long time, so I'm very familiar with it. What we did get agreement on from the Department of Environmental Conservation was that we're allowed to put PDF maps of the water system out there. This is heavily used by the real estate community. So one of our web mapping applications and I just went off my speech, so you're going to have to just give me a second.
I appreciate
no,
your time.
that's
Thank you.
so on here. This is another map index. We're allowed to put PDF maps. You can click anywhere in the municipality and download a accurate map of the current water system in that area. And these are updated monthly by AWW, and they put them in a location that we're able to share them publicly. The future is a little bit more challenging on those. We are building the processes for future projects in GIS. It has because there's many dependencies and change management is difficult, it takes a while with each process. Like it can take up to 2 years to build a new process depending who you're working with and what their former business process has been. AWW has their capital improvement program and their water master plans available on their websites. And you can look at those for future expansion.
Okay, well, thank you. That was very helpful.
Do you have, under environmental data, do you have floodplains and avalanche chutes?
We have floodplains, and we actually take the floodplain data directly from FEMA. The avalanche chutes we have, but they come from a very old study, and the avalanche chutes themselves have not been updated since that old study.
Okay. Then,
Yeah.
can we get access to seismic data? Yes or no?
Yes,
All right, thank you.
it's already out there.
All right, thank you.
So it's and actually one issue that we have is there's so much information out there that organizing in a way that everyone can kind of natively go to it is
I'm impressed, and you've made a fan.
Oh, good. This is fun to share. So,
Yeah, Mr. Peterson, sorry.
hi.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and the first area that I saw that GIS was very, very useful for was when they were trying to figure out a way to make it easier to get the right ballots sent out to the right people in some of the road improvement district areas. And you were color coding people, so they would get the right ballot and that type of thing, and that was really very effective and improved our system quite a bit. So I just wanted to highlight that for those who weren't aware.
Well, thank you. We're visual creatures. Human beings prefer seeing things visually, and if you see a spreadsheet versus a map, a lot of times the map will make more sense because you can color code different things. You can also see errors. So we have a map gallery that's available. If you go to our Muni homepage and you click maps, you get to here. This is all publicly available data. I'm going to take advantage of Mr. Tyson's question and click on the environmental gallery as a sample and show that we have available publicly historic seismic zones. This is actually one of my favorite maps because of the complexity of the superficial geology. And it shows contours. Unfortunately, it's only within the Anchorage Bowl because that's where the study was done, but it shows different superficial geology throughout the municipality. So we have many, many, many data sets that also give information like on property information. These are all as current as we have the data. So what we're doing is sharing with the public the information that municipal staff have in order so that we can share decision making.
And that's all just up on the website?
It's all up on-
Uni.org maps?
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't even know that was there. That's stupid. And then, so are you starting to get some of the benefits now? I imagine there was a whole bunch of time getting everything linked up, and now you're able to expand to other areas because everything's automatically doing?
We have, and unfortunately the requests go exponential
Yeah.
as people understand what you can do. There's desire to do more. So the challenge is that every single application, so we do the integration for the 911 systems as well. So as they upgrade Tiburon or upgrade the TriTech, we're doing the exports from the GIS data so that they can bring it in. We do the work management system integration by providing data feeds. So it is quite challenging to keep up. I've got a fabulous team. We use laser focus to prioritize and then just keep going. But there's no slow days. So on this particular app, this is one of our most popular apps. It is the property information app. You can click on any property, get information on the owner, and then you can click back into the CAMA system. If you're in the property information system, you can also go backwards and go back to the map and get information that way. That is one of our more popular apps. So I'm going to go on to the next piece. We are continuing to try to organize in a more user-friendly fashion. So we have developed a updated kind of gallery and all-in-one. We'd love feedback on this when we put it out. We're trying to make it more business-friendly, more constituent-friendly, so that the public has easier access to all the information that we have. So this is an example of a brand new data set we put out. I'm excited about it. I think the assembly members would be one group that would also be excited because it goes to the root of our government. Our government is a quilt of service areas, and these are the tax districts that we have. On this new app, you can click on any tax district and see which services you have for the ones that we have mapped. So you can see which fire service area you're in, who your responder is, which road service area that tax district is in. You can also come and interactively do a filter. And what that means is, say I want to, oops, I'm sorry about that. say I want to see the information only for the Chugiak Fire Service. Which tax districts are in the Chugiak Fire Service area? I'm going to turn this on, and it will show me that these are the tax districts in the Chugiak Fire Service area. So that's
Mr. Chair.
Yeah,
Question on that. Yeah, so could you go back to the list of all the service areas that were available or in that area? The previous screen.
oh, the previous screen, not this map, the previous map.
Yeah, the one that listed all of the service areas and all the tax areas and districts that were under that one property. The one you just had up.
Okay,
like-
this one, but you want to see the overview?
Yeah.
Okay. I can do that.
No, but then you had a list that came down of all of the area fees or tax
Oh, so
assessments.
for each one of these, you can click.
Right,
and
there you
there's-
go. So
yeah.
now my question is, you just showed us a screen where you have the tax assessment, the tax page, tax roll, that you can switch back and forth.
Mhm.
And in that, you can also get to your tax levy. So my question is it possible, or are we moving toward a point where an individual can click on this screen and see how much they're being levied for all of those services?
Yes, and yes, we are moving towards that. So the challenge is that many of these areas were actually poor. These didn't exist.
Right.
Very well drawn. There's overlap. So we had to do a ton of cleanup to get to this point, and now we can do the fun things like the levies.
And then people can know what they're buying with
Exactly.
that annual check that they have to write.
Exactly.
Okay.
And we can even color code it by, the overall levy so that people can understand it a little bit
Thank
better.
you.
So this is an example of where we've had a lot of fun setting up partnerships with different groups. And one of the groups that we have set up partnerships with is for Nordic skiing. And this Nordic ski map is actually coming from the Nordic Ski Association website. And it's getting over 2,000 hits a day. It's our most popular app now because they've embedded in their website. And the groomers with the Nordic Ski Association and down in Girdwood, they're actually updating the grooming status data right in our system. So it's our first data management sharing agreement, while Parks and Rec is controlling the trails and the Parks and Rec maintain trails.
You had Chris and Fred, you just got John. We're working your way across the table.
Okay. Well, this has been really fun to watch the usage increase, and also it took 4 years to get that collaboration in place, because the hard part is the people and the change management, and will you help us maintain this? And so once you have this partnership set up, it's just fantastic. So it's been very fun. The other one is the Federation of Community Councils. We worked with them, and they embedded our web. They had old, some of their community council maps were out of date.
Yeah.
And so they embedded our web map, and you can click on it and you can get a printable community council map. So that was pretty fun. The last thing that we've done that's also been really wonderful is the public has become a really important partner for sharing information. There are eyes and ears on the ground. And this happened with the reporting for the homeless camps. So this system was set up collaboratively between the Housing and Homeless Coordinator and our shop. And at first there was a lot of inaccurate reporting from the public, but their information and quality of information has increased, and now the police can spend their time going directly there, navigating using their mobile phones with instead of just kind of tromping through the woods. The police who do the work for abatement joke that they're not getting their steps in anymore because they can go directly to the camp rather than going around in the woods trying to locate it. And this is a public submission form. And so the next piece I was going to talk about, that was the public constituent side of the information we put out. The public constituent side is fueled by internal business processes that may have been using spreadsheets or other formats that we've now turned on so that they're managing their data in GIS. And then we're able to share it. So this is how many departments we're supporting. Some of these are not departments but divisions. It depends on the level of GIS use that they have. So it's muni-wide. We have one system, and this is an example of a data set that we created with Parks and Rec. This did not used to exist. And the fun thing about this is if you want to know where our dog parks are or ice skating, you can use this and find what any type of public or private facility that they've got mapped so that you can see what's out there, where it is. So that's been very, very fun to explore because we have wonderful park facilities and resources. This is again the Nordic ski map, and this is also out of GIS. And the point here is there is no map, but there is an inventory. We have over 950 park facilities points on the previous map. We have 130 miles of Nordic trail, bringing people to Anchorage. They will like to know the world-class trails that we have here. We have 296 parks. So those are the kind of stats that we can pull out of a GIS system. The other thing that our maps can do is when there are ordinance changes, we can help share that information. This map was developed by Watershed. We help them with the data setup. So you can click on any one of these streams. There's a new stream setback information, and it gives all of the information for stream setbacks. This is available publicly. So if anybody has questions about the development of their property, they can come to this. This is also an example of our storm drain system that's shared publicly. And then here's another summary of information that you can gather from our GIS system. We have a lot of streams. We have a lot of watersheds. These are color-coded by watersheds. So you can see their data is actually fairly good, high quality in terms of watershed information. So the city clerk is working on a super exciting application. They've been working on this. The first part was just editing and adding the information. This is our current liquor licenses, and you can do it by
Can you just do bars? I mean, not package stores.
Types
but-
of licenses.
Yeah.
license type, just bars. So
There's a
these are the categories.
beverage
Beverage
The answer is
dispensary.
yes.
Okay. Okay.
Is that what you want us to meet next?
No, we've thrown around for a long time where all the bars are, and that's about what I thought. Yeah.
Midtown's the hotspot.
So,
They're all in
Mr.
my
Cross,
district.
this is one of those examples of, what did you call that data? Confident?
Authoritative.
Authoritative data. You know, there have been liquor license applications with conditional use permits. The address is absolutely dead wrong. But-
This is overlay of, so it's beverage dispensary with community council?
Yes, and we can turn off and on differently.
No, keep the community council on, that's great.
But this is accurate. Mandy and Tina and Amber and their team
Yeah.
have been working on this. Those locations are finally, as Tina said, authoritative.
Yes, and those two are why it's working, because they've taken the time to make sure the data is accurate, enter it, and
Can you overlay
Idiots.
assembly districts instead of community
Yeah, right at the
council?
top.
so I can, but I don't have it set up for that. So that's a kind of feedback. But what I can do is I can put a filter on that says in this assembly district. I just don't. This is still a draft.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
That's
we will
really
we
neat.
will make sure to put one out on there with assembly districts.
Mr. Crowe.
It's already on there. I just can't get
Yeah.
the date.
I would like to anticipate Mr. Trainey's question. Can you do this with marijuana licenses?
We have
That's
already.
exactly where I'm going with this. I'm not going to blame because Ed Guy said he wants to start a dispensary in Eagle River, and he says there's no land there to zone for it. So can we get this to tell us what land is zoned in Eagle River for dispensary?
We do, so the zoning for liquor licenses is complicated, and you can get
You asked a question, she's answering it.
So he was saying something.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. The short answer is sort of. So we have the zoning information available publicly, and we can overlay that, but the liquor licenses, I don't understand the process as, so I can't totally. Oh, marijuana. Oh, marijuana.
Let me even translate one more level. So
Yeah,
there's
we
there's a
can.
bunch of restrictions that say you can't be within a certain
1,000
distance of a
feet.
school,
Here.
of a park, of a whatever.
Here it is. So here's Eagle River, and here's the different. The underlying layer is special use limitations for marijuana.
Okay, so that's where they are. Where,
No, this is, so if you go here, this is where they are.
okay.
And because and this is from memory, I think Eagle River, the restrictions were per,
1,000 foot setback.
And it was.
but
from
certain
a-
zones were excluded.
And they did have an edge of the property.
Yeah.
Yeah.
versus-
Anyway, we're gonna
But-
we're gonna put on your big list, I think. Tell us where any marijuana could be placed according to the rules that apply to Anchorage and the rules that apply in Eagle River.
That's right here,
They
because I got a
can't.
complaint from a person that's had to drive all the way to Anchorage to get
Yep.
If you,
my
if,
supplies.
The number one black market is Eagle River.
Well, wait a minute. So just slow down. So you could do a couple of them, right? But then not all of them are really difficult, or
Eagle River had, so I'm not the subject matter expert on marijuana licensing, so,
do you want to be?
no. But what I can say is my understanding of this map is the underlying colored parcels or colored areas are areas where there is some sort of restriction for marijuana licensing already. So if you look at this map in Anchorage, it's,
So can you show me every school in Anchorage?
every school is in Anchorage is shown on this by colors that color coded. Let me go to the actual map because these are embedded. There's things I can't show you, but let me show you on our Muni website. If you go to our maps, and marijuana is in development, planning and development, I hope. And you go to marijuana establishments. It tells you some of that stuff, and then if you look at the layers here, it gives some information. These are protected land uses. So these are color coded, so the schools, we can make a different color that's kind of close to community center.
No, that's fine. You're ahead of me as usual. But anyway, that kind of thing of where they are and where some of the prohibited
And
uses are.
so this is available publicly, and on here you can see that the color coding for marijuana has already been separated by proposed, conditional, and approved.
Things green when it's approved.
Yeah, and you can also, if you're interested, you can do fun stuff like select an area on the map and export out to a spreadsheet those marijuana facilities. You can open it up in Excel, and then you can filter.
You got me.
Yeah, we're working all around the rooms. Yeah. So I think you were ahead of me before, but let me just sound like Chris knew too. So if we wanted to try and get a map that said here are the places where a marijuana establishment could be located in Eagle River or in Anchorage, because now it has understood where churches are, where schools are, where all these things are that have zones around them where marijuana can't be, and what's remaining. That is doable, really difficult, impossible?
The where it's allowed is, this is from memory of the marijuana licenses. We've been asked this question before, and it's difficult. One of the things that makes some of those analysis challenging are the distance from a front door or from a property edge, because we don't have a network. So in Eagle River, I think there aren't very many places where it's allowed. So but in Anchorage, that would be a difficult exercise.
Mr. Croft, there's one other variable that the planning department would want to have you hear, is that this may be authoritative of where things exist or what the underlying conditions are, but it may not be authoritative as to whether a small church has cropped up in the last 6 months or whatever the actual realities are on the ground, right? And so you can get a general sense but you can't get a specific sense until you know exactly where and you walk it.
Fred, yeah.
It's the walking, yeah.
Did you want to say, yeah?
Yeah, I just think that it'd be really quite helpful if we could do this on our screen, the assembly chamber, and when we have our meetings, you know, or work sessions, sometimes. But when we're considering liquor licenses and stuff, if we could pop that up, it would help me, and I'm certain it would help others to understand the issue. It's a marvelous tool.
Yeah. Other assembly questions or comments?
Wow.
Mr. Just to actualize that, I think what that would look like is we would have a staff person in the clerk's office become a pro on the mapping system who would be at the meetings and prepared with the agenda with items that were geographically sensitive. And it's a level of kind of flexibility and complexity that might be challenging, but it also could be an interesting challenge.
Well, I think Tina will tell you as she started her presentation out, she is not the expert on, I can't remember what topic you started with, but she's not the expert. It's us. It's my election data. It's Mandy's liquor license data. So all we do is we have the wonderful opportunity to tap into this resource and their expertise. But Mandy is the one that did this. So yes, she can provide it to you. We just have to figure out how you want it. Mr. Dyson wants it up on the big screen. I expect maybe some of it could be at the CEDC committee meetings. Is that a better place to provide this?
Well,
Why not all of them?
yeah, up on the screen or as part of the packet when here's a marijuana license, here's just that map printout of the prohibited zones around.
And what I think he's getting to, maybe I
Okay.
mistook you, but what I think he's getting to is we have a ton of business that happens in our packet that is this deep, and we have our community TV that shows the public the meetings we're having.
Right.
And it can be kind of droning and horrible to have to look at me for 5 minutes while I talk too much. Instead, you could actually be showing a side of the map that is whatever's being considered, right? And so that's very complex when you think about running a meeting. But I think that's what you were implying, is sending the public the information that we're talking about through the map system we have through our meeting system.
We're going to get you some overtime on Tuesday nights.
Yeah, that's...
I'm salaried, so
Okay,
we're good.
Oh,
we can talk about that.
That's like,
No, it's fine. Yeah, we'd be happy to.
Different issues.
Any other assembly comments? Anything you wanted to say, or you?
So how much time do I have, Mr.
Well, sure. We started late. We apologize, but about 5 more minutes is what we
Okay.
noticed it for.
So I'm going to go very quickly and ask for your help prioritizing. This is all the state business license information. One of the things that we do is we convert information from other agencies so we don't have to manually put it in. This is state business license information that is where we can look at by business, by business code. But what I'd like to show you that I think you might be interested in is some of the earthquake response that we did, the mapping that we did for that. And child care facilities also comes from the state, then we convert it into a map format. They give us a spreadsheet on their website. Assisted living facility is an example. There are 4 different municipal departments, including the dispatch of fire, that were manually maintaining this information. Now they get an update every week where we pull it from the state. This is our street lights. Our system is very complicated in terms of who's responsible for what. I think most people in Anchorage don't understand how complicated it is. It makes it very easy to see for each street light, which is most street light poles as well, who is responsible for ownership and maintenance. And then you get some summary information. This is the kind of the homeless camp dispatch system. It's being very slow to load, so I'm going to go down and then go back up. And so what this shows is public requests that are coming in that have been responded to. The diamonds are responded to. The X's are public requests.
is this real time?
This is real time. Everything in here is real time. And then here's our earthquake response. We did a dashboard. All of this data was set up quickly in GIS, or we integrated with an existing system in the case of the buildings and receive an export.
Can you go to Eagle River on that?
I can.
That's kind of what I thought.
So, and you can do dashboards where you can get kind of an all-in-one view. This is our public art. They didn't have it in GIS before, but we're working with them to set up a good system of managing the public art. We also redid the cemetery, so I don't have that in here, but the master burial list. How many people were buried in the cemetery, Amber? Do you know? I don't know. Anyway,
19,000
yeah. These are the buildings. You can do a filter. This is used internally so that we can, it's updated once a day from the other system, so we can see, I have to be tricky about. So we can see the red placard status. Turn that on. I have things layered funny here, so I might not be able to do it just because of, oh, here we go. 4. So you can see just the red ones. You can also export just the red ones at any time to a spreadsheet. This was great for sharing with the state, and the state told us that this was a key part of their submission for the declaration of disaster that they give to the president, because we were able to respond so quickly and give them access to the data. The other thing I'd like to say is we did go to an award winning. I'm very proud of the period of time. We won a international award. We were one of 189 winners chosen from more than 100,000 organizations internationally for our work on the housing and homelessness. And I got to meet the Bill Gates of the GIS world. His name's Jack Jangerman, so it was a real honor.
Where'd you go for the thing?
It was in San Diego. Yeah. So that's the end of my presentation, and thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Wow.
Mr. Chair, the last thing I'd like to comment is, I'm not sure all of you know this, but Tina works in community and economic development. So she's part of Chris Schuette's group. And anyway, I just want to compliment and comment about Chris too. I think they're just really a great team, and we thank them very much for everything they've done for us.
Thank you.
Yeah, Tina, that was very impressive, and I think you'll drum up a whole bunch of "can you do this?" but we'll see where that comes, Mr. Constable.
What I always hear back from Chris Schuette is that's too expensive.
Okay.
I hear it all the time.
Ms. LaFrance?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Tina, I think you said at the beginning that the meeting used GIS on and off, or did you say we had it and then we didn't have it? And then
We've had it consistently since the mid-1990s. However, GIS is only as good as its data, and the data and the data sharing and the processes for that. If you can think about a building that's really, really old and crumbling, and the foundation doesn't work anymore, that's kind of where we were at. So it's been a consistent tool, and a very valuable tool, but organizational issues and funding basically broke it for a long time. We're still running pretty tight. We have our budget, I think I have $3,000 beyond direct costs.
if you don't have the data, and you essentially build out the system.
Exactly.
And so looking at this and seeing how easily integrated it is into the Muni, it's hard to imagine that it could ever be at risk, though I understand how Cyclists and Geographic work, that it could.
I think one of the challenges is that you look at a map and you think it's okay, and it has to keep corroding to a fairly high level before you know that the foundation's completely gone.
Mr. Peters?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I actually just happened to think of another possible use, and you probably already do this. We're in the middle of the winter, and several of us assembly members may be getting complaints from people that their streets haven't been cleared of snow. And so is there a map that you have that shows where the districts have been cleaned today, and these are the ones that are going to be done tomorrow? And,
There is one out there. It's by area, and the order of the areas changes based on garbage days. They have different plans, but the dispatchers at street maintenance manage that. I don't know if it's being used up in Eagle River yet. So that's because we have a different agency in Eagle River. It takes a little bit longer to get everybody.
Final word from Mr. Constable.
A quick suggestion on the endless mapping, I know that's a political football, but when you receive an email after you've submitted a posting, right, you get an email as a member of
Yes,
the public.
that's
post.
correct.
It gives you the number of the notification, but it doesn't give you really any more information.
Yeah.
And so when you're an individual who has posted 5 camps over the course of 6 months, and you finally, after 6 months, get a notification that says your camp has been addressed,
You don't know which one it is.
you have no way to know. So is it
Yeah.
possible to tag into the actual response email a map snapshot of where I posted this camp? You know, I notified this
Right.
place.
Yeah.
Or, you know, come up with some way for the public to know what they said, because it's dead information when you get it 4 months later and it's just a number.
Agreed. And we have been aware of that issue. That's not a very friendly
Right.
way to do it. And there's 2 pieces to that. The first is that the workflow, we're kind of separating out the cleanup workflow more from the abatement, and that will allow better communication on the cleanup side.
Right.
And then the second piece is we are working diligently to try to strategize and understand data categorization if there's a subset that we can put out there that would make it easier for that. And
I'm going to ask everybody who has one of those could you do ideas, which I can feel you guys cropping up with, to put them by email to her and include Barbara so that we can sort of see what we're asking and prioritize what we're asking and see if it's duplicative, right? If people are asking the same thing. Yeah, Mindy?
So I just wanted to add a comment, as Tina said, for the liquor licensing map. It's still in draft form. So if there are layers that you would like to see added to it, we're still working on it. One thing I wanted to let you know that we're working towards, my understanding is that they're working on getting the land use permits, the historical ones, from the planning department. And so eventually we're wanting to pair the liquor licenses with the land use permits that were granted historically. And then
Yeah, that'd be a good idea, knowing what restrictions we put on everything, right?
That's the idea
Was
where it's headed.
harder than we thought. We're at a work session. It's not mandatory to have public testimony. We're just doing work sessions. But if any member of the public would like to comment, they could do so now. Mr. Haberman.
My name is Eugene Carl Haberman. I represent myself, follow the public process. The public process government. No decision made by the governing bodies more like the public interest other than matters to develop. Note for the record, there's 3 members when I'm speaking here that's not present for the assembly. Senator Rivera, Quinn Davison, and Senator Dunbar. Thank you for a chance to speak, and I would have liked to have had a chance to address concerns on your first work sessions you had earlier today. Please note for the record, you had a discussion, you had this on the agenda in December as a resolution. There was no public hearing. There was an item laid on the table, I'm referring to the item in the first work session that you had today, okay? There was no public hearing, it was laid on the table, and the decision among you, no opportunity for the public to speak because it was the first part of the meeting, 5 o'clock, the public could not speak on that issue, but you did lay it on the table, and now we're witness also, you did do a discussion on this before that happened, but the end result is the public couldn't speak at that other work session that you had, okay, earlier. And then one footnote, very important. You need to look at that agenda that you've got going for Tuesday. And you'll see in notes that it says that there was a public hearing on this item. If you look in the beginning, toward the end, of the start of public hearings, or you've been into whatever, it makes it interpreted that you did have a public hearing. You are going through a policy, in all due respect, you're not connecting with the people. There was extensive discussion here, extensive discussion earlier in other meetings, but the public had no chance. And I'm speaking on this issue where 3 members were involved at the first meeting here today, but they're not present, so they couldn't hear my response. So in all due respect, we do have a problem with putting out resolutions. No chance for us to speak. And I really have a problem with you doing it as a resolution on this issue and not as an ordinance with a public hearing, even though you're saying on that agenda that's coming up Tuesday that you had a public hearing. What is true? That's fake news. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Haberman. Anybody else? Then I'll adjourn the work session.